Ghana, a land of gold, intellect and growing youth consciousness, once again finds itself wrestling with the ghosts of political favoritism and systemic injustice. On the morning of May 27, 2025, Chairman Bernard Antwi-Boasiako, widely known as Chairman Wontumi, found himself in the cold hands of the Economic and Organized Crime Office, EOCO. But instead of this being a clear path to justice, it has become a noisy circus of political defense, parliamentary protests, and elite shielding. The real question remains: can Ghana ever fight corruption when politicians turn into defenders of the corrupt? In a shocking twist, rather than supporting the due course of justice, members of the opposition New Patriotic Party, NPP, have turned EOCO's investigation into a battlefield of partisan loyalty. Minority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin and fellow MPs staged a walkout in Parliament, abandoning legislative duties to mount a protest at EOCO headquarters in defense of Chairman Wontumi. Their demand? His immediate release. Their logic? He had honored police invitations and thus deserved a softer self-recognizance bail, despite facing some of the gravest allegations any public figure could endure. Let us be blunt. Ghana is fast becoming a nation where the poor get jailed for stealing bread, but politicians accused of stealing millions are marched to safety by their fellow elites. In this exposé, Ghana AI News dives deep into the legal chaos, political obstruction, and moral decay surrounding Wontumi's arrest, as well as how his allies are challenging the very foundations of constitutional governance, the legal foundation, and allegations. Chairman Wontumi's troubles began when the Deputy Attorney General and Minister for Justice, Justice Sremsai, revealed publicly that Wontumi is being investigated for an array of high-level financial crimes. These include fraud, causing financial loss to the state, and money laundering. Furthermore, authorities believe he is entangled in a broader international organized crime syndicate, and they are collaborating with global agencies to untangle the web. Even more damning is that asset recovery efforts are already underway, an indication that this isn't a speculative witch hunt, but a process grounded in evidence. The concern of law enforcement is clear. If not stopped now, Chairman Wontumi could dissipate alleged ill-gotten assets before justice catches up with him. EOCO acted on this by arresting him on May 27th and subsequently granting him bail set at 50 million Ghanaian cedis, with 2 sureties, both to be justified. To most Ghanaians, that figure sounds like accountability, but not to the NPP minority in Parliament. The outrageous defense. The political defense of Wontumi has stunned many observers. Instead of allowing the process to proceed, the NPP leadership decided to politicize his detention. Afenyo-Markin and his loyal MPs did not just make public statements, they walked out of Parliament, physically occupied EOCO's compound, and led demonstrations demanding Wontumi's release. They labeled the 50 million Ghana cedi bail as punitive and politically motivated. They ignored the core of the matter, serious crimes with national and international implications, and instead reduced it to a partisan fight. In any normal democratic state, an accused person is granted bail under conditions deemed necessary to ensure justice. Why should a suspect with access to vast resources, accused of financial crimes of this magnitude, be granted self-recognizance bail? Is he more special than an average Ghanaian detained over petty theft? Their actions send a poisonous message to the public. So long as you serve the interests of a political party, your crimes don't matter. The hypocrisy of the elite. Ghana is the only country, as many social commentators have put it, where politicians defend evil as long as the evil serves their interests. The Wontumi saga exemplifies this ugly truth. If Wontumi were an ordinary Ghanaian youth found with 10 grams of marijuana or caught stealing a loaf of bread to survive, he'd be sentenced to years in prison with no protest from Parliament. Yet here is a man accused of laundering money, potentially up to millions of cedis with international crime implications, and he is being treated like a prince. Lawyer Martin Pebu, a well-respected legal practitioner, has rightly questioned EOCO's tactics. He argued that the 48-hour detention period was pushing the limits of constitutional fairness and should be reviewed. That's a fair argument. But it is very different from demanding that a man of Wontumi's profile be set free with no security conditions simply because he cooperated. We must not confuse due process with elite immunity. Justice must not only work, it must be seen to work. Bail, politics, and public perception. Despite the 50 million Ghana cedi bail being granted, Wontumi remains in custody, reportedly due to his inability to meet both sureties. He has only secured one. Meanwhile, political pressure is mounting on EOCO to soften the conditions or release him entirely. But consider this. If a man with such resources cannot produce two justified sureties, what does it say about the nature of his wealth? Is it hidden, untraceable? Or are his allies merely creating a public theatre to suggest he is being persecuted? Ghana is watching, and more importantly, the youth are watching. When they see a politician accused of grave crimes being defended by Parliament itself, while the everyday Ghanaian faces harsh punishment for minor offences, what lesson are they learning? On May 30th, 2025, Afenyo Makin took his protest to the next level. The minority walked out of Parliament, choosing political theatre over legislative responsibility. They marched to EOCO headquarters and staged a sit-in, demanding Wontumi's release. Their justification: the arrest was unfair and the bail conditions outrageous. Afenyo Makin described the arrest as Rambo style and said Wontumi is not a flight risk. He demanded that EOCO release him on self-recognizance bail, ignoring the fact that Wontumi is at the center of one of the largest financial investigations in recent years. This was not about justice, it was about loyalty, blind, dangerous loyalty. While they sit at EOCO's doorsteps, real victims of financial crimes, farmers who lost subsidies, students without scholarship funds, hospitals with no beds, sit silently suffering. Who protests for them? The first Deputy Speaker of Parliament had to remind his colleagues that Parliament has no legal right to interfere in active criminal investigations. Article 125 of the 1992 Constitution vests judicial authority in the courts, not in political protests. Yet the minority MPs chose to ignore this. They put pressure on EOCO, demanding a constitutional compromise. This is not only an affront to the law, but a dangerous precedent. If this becomes the new normal, then no corrupt politician in Ghana will ever face the law again. What does this mean for Ghana's justice system? What we are witnessing is a tale of two Ghanas, one where political elites enjoy protection and another where the poor suffer the full weight of the law. The smallest theft can fetch 10 years behind bars for a market boy, but a political kingpin gets a parade of lawyers, protesters, and MPs fighting for his freedom. This is injustice in its rawest form. Until Ghana reaches a point where the law works the same for all, rich or poor, NPP or NDC, educated or illiterate, the nation will continue to stagger under the weight of inequality. My opinion: the system is being poisoned. As a Ghanaian and as a neutral observer, I must say this: the justice system is under attack, not from criminals with guns, but from politicians with influence. Ghana cannot fight corruption if its leaders publicly defend those being investigated for corruption. That is not loyalty, it is complicity. EOCO must stand its ground, the judiciary must stand firm, and the Ghanaian people must raise their voices. This case is not just about Chairman Wontumi, it is about the integrity of the legal system. If this case is compromised, no future investigation against any political figure will be trusted, and that is a death sentence for democracy. Chairman Wontumi remains in custody under medical supervision at the National Intelligence Bureau clinic. His case is still unfolding, but already it has exposed the cracks in our nation's commitment to justice. The reactions from political figures, the public outcry, and the boldness of the minority to stage protests have all painted a very worrying picture. This is more than a political scandal. It is a test of Ghana's soul. Will we stand for truth, or will we be known as the country where party loyalty is more sacred than justice? Ghana AI News will continue to follow this story. If you believe in truth, justice, and accountability, subscribe, share this expose, and tell us. Should politicians be allowed to protest the arrest of their colleagues? Do you think Wontumi should be given self-recognizance bail? What does this case tell you about corruption and power in Ghana? Leave your comments, share your views, and let the truth echo louder than political noise.